This is an experience of the void.
Hello, viewers, listeners, people of the internet. This is The Void. We have two very special guests today, which is exciting. We have Nate Newton of Converge, Steve Brodsky of Cave-In. They coalesce and cross musically in many ways, almost like a weird multi-headed, multi-instrumental beast. You've both played in each other's bands. You've known each other a long time. And technically, Nate, you replaced Steven in Converge. So I'd like to go back to the beginning. How did you meet? What really happened there? Tell me more.
Steve, when did we meet?
I was thinking about it. Probably in the late 90s sometime. I know that's pretty vague, but I remember our first conversation, at least the one that I felt really engaged and felt like we had made a connection, was at a Cave-In Converge show at Mamakin. No, Karma Club. It was Cave-In and Converge, and I think there's a photo of us hanging out. I'm wearing a flannel, and I've got my hand out with a pair of earplugs. And I remember we were just shooting the shit for quite a while, and that night I played a Gibson Marauder, and I think it was the only show I ever played a Marauder at, and then it got stolen. So yeah, that was a memorable night for many reasons.
Cool show. That was also Ben's first show with Converge.
Really?
Yeah.
That's a special moment.
Yeah, but that's not when we met. We met before that because
we definitely did.
Jesuit and Cave-In did a bunch of shows together. I don't remember actually ever meeting you, just kind of knowing you.
We probably met at the Space in Worcester.
That sounds right. I don't remember meeting you. So hi, I'm Nate. Nice to meet you.
It was deep. It was a moment. So it was very memorable for Steven, and it just happened in a blow. What kind of struck you about each other that at that point as kind of, musicians?
Well, he could play. So that was one of the first things that I noticed. I was like, oh, that dude is actually good at his instrument and he can sing. And I'm bullshit. And that's basically what I thought. I can throw this thing and I can scream and I can be an asshole. And that's pretty much exactly what I did.
For a really long time.
Basically till coronavirus.
Yeah, that was pretty much. Yeah, that shit locked down. Yeah, well, being able to sing is kind of a big deal. It's not that common.
You're a big deal, Steve.
You're a big deal.
Yeah. I'm sort of a big deal.
Yeah, well, it matters. It's especially when you're like a child of 80s and 90s pop music. There is something, not to diminish screaming, but there is something quite profound and kind of hits you in your childhood self when someone can really sing. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I was really impressed by what Kurt and I call the scoop in Nate's voice. That's that what? It's like this rising thing that comes from the guttural insides, and it's got an upwards trajectory. It's from the soul projected out of the mouth hole. And Nate just has a real primal, just quintessential, sonically ear-pleasing scoop. Kurt and I have discussed this. Who else has the scoop?
That's very nice of you to say that, and it's nice to hear that about Kurt saying that, because Kurt never compliments me.
Really? But you've been married for so long.
Yeah, now I can be like, whatever, Kurt, you like my scoop.
Yeah, I love that. I like screaming is such an art form as well, and it can be boring, but it's always interesting in Converge. And I've never heard it called a scoop, but it's true.
I've never heard that before either, but I like it.
We've learned a new word.
We have.
And you and Kurt coined it, so it's probably good. The end of the day,
the scoop and metalcore. You guys did it.
You did both of them. Thanks for doing
Nate's also really good at screaming into a guitar pickup.
Yeah, that was my move for a while.
Yeah?
I did enjoy screaming into the guitar pickup. I should bring that one back.
Yeah. Well,
Most
okay.
deaf.
How did you change, like, what happened to make you you took Stephen's job? Not like in a I have no idea what happened. That sounds really like provocative. But like
I'm
what
unemployed.
happened there? That's like
Thanks,
not in the
Nate.
public parlance, you know?
Steve, you want to take this one or you want me to?
What about you stealing my job?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you can't really steal something that, I fucking own.
Oh!
Contentious. It's contentious now.
If I remember correctly, Cave-In that was when Until Your Heart Stops came out, right? And you guys were like really starting to hit it hard, and rightfully so. And you didn't want to be doing double duty. And am I right? Am I getting this right?
Yeah, I guess I just felt like it came to a breaking point. I had to either just go one way or the other. And I mean, getting to play in Converge is like a dream for me, really. Like, that was the first local band that really just spun my head in so many different directions, and it changed the trajectory of just how I thought about music, listened to music, saw music, and my friend group, the people I wanted to associate with, and it was a real turning point for me. But then I definitely reached another one at some point where I just, like Nate said, I felt like I had to either hit it hard with Cave-In or hit it hard with Converge, and the Cave-In stuff was just really pulling at me at the time. And, Adam and JR, especially, like, are two of my oldest friends. Like, we go way back to like middle school and the Methuen, Massachusetts days, and then of course, once we had Caleb in the band, it really sort of solidified the lineup, and it just felt like this natural sort of gravitational pull that I had to just go with,
And you got to follow the gravity. You can't fight gravity. Like, that's
No
one
way.
thing we don't have
Too strong.
any control over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe for a little while.
Well, what was
But,
it like for you?
For me?
Yeah.
It was cool. I mean, to what Steve was saying, when Caleb joined the band, it was like a blatantly obvious just light going off, not just for them, but for everybody. Like, I remember being like, oh shit, they got it now. They figured it out. Like,
Yeah.
this is going to be something real. And yeah, for me joining it, I'd been friends with the Converge guys for, years at that point already. And both of my bands up to that point had toured with Converge, and, we were all just tight. And so they asked me to, it was the tour for When Forever Comes Crashing. It was the same summer as the Until Your Heart Stops tour. And I'm pretty sure I went out with Converge first. You guys were playing some shows, and you were doing a tour with Ire, I think. And yeah, they asked me to just go out on that tour. And I was like, sure, I don't have a bass. I don't know your songs, but yeah, I'll go. And then I got up there, I think 3 days before the tour started, and we went to Mr. Music and bought that blue precision bass, and it was used. It was like $200 or something. And then we went back to Kurt's apartment, and he sat down and just showed me the set, and I was like, holy shit, there's no fucking way I can play this. And but I was like, yeah, cool, man, I got it. And then we went on tour, and I didn't know the songs, so I just put distortion on my bass and jumped in the crowd a lot and threw my bass and acted like I knew what I was doing.
Well,
And then after that tour, they had a few more shows throughout the year, and they asked me to come play them and stuff just because they didn't have anybody. And I was like, I can't fucking believe they're still asking me to play bass for them, because that was god awful. And yeah, and then it just I guess they didn't want to look for someone else because they figured if they were just like, if this is what's out there, then I guess we better stick with it.
Don't you be all self-deprecating. You don't get enough credit. I'm just saying, like everyone knows it.
I mean, I feel like now it's a completely different animal, but then I'm talking about 1998 when I first played with Converge. I was terrible. Like I was bad.
Well, to be fair, right? So like mid 90s to late 90s Converge specialized in a form of arrangement that we like to refer to in the inner circle as riff soup.
A lot of riff soup.
A lot of riff soup. I mean, it's just like, you know, throwing riffs into the pot like spices, and you know, you might hear a riff once and then you might never hear it again, and it might be the best riff in the song, but well.
Yeah, sorry, man.
You do have a lot of colors and flavors. Where do they all come from? Magic?
Kurt in his weird mind, like nobody else thinks like Kurt. And he comes up with so many ideas that it's like kind of it bowls you over at first. You're just like, whoa, okay, let's make sense of all this. But yeah, I think back then there was a real I don't know, desire to not only, you know, be technically proficient, which again makes me wonder why the hell they wanted me to play bass, but also to like show kind of to wear all your influences on your sleeve. And Kurt was into a pretty wide, all of those guys were into a pretty wide range of music. And so I think they just really wanted to show like, I'm not, you know, we aren't just this one thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, and I understood that was, I felt like all of our little, you know, community was kind of coming from that same mindset. And so like, I got where they were coming from on that. But it was definitely like, I remember when the first time that I started writing songs with Kurt being like, dude, you don't have to use every idea in one song. Like we could make 2 songs.
You can make several. Maybe that's the perfect balance. Maybe you two are perfectly diametrically opposed in kind of bringing like a rawness and a simplicity, which is pretty critical for like good rock music. And those ideas.
I think that probably everybody in Converge would at least agree with the fact that Kurt and I are diametrically opposed musically. But I think we've both really learned a lot from each other. I mean, I've certainly learned a ton from Kurt, and I think we complement each other well. And I mean, he's incredible. You know, like that. Like I say that Kurt doesn't compliment me very much. I don't compliment Kurt very much, at least not to his face. But he's incredible. Like he's an amazing guitarist. The way his mind works is so foreign to me, and like it's really interesting to watch, and it's a lot of fun to try and decipher where he's coming from. And half the time we're saying the same thing to each other in a completely different language, and we're arguing about the thing that we're agreeing on at the same time.
What's the musical argument you're glad you've won the most?
Oh man.
So many.
I mean, it usually always comes down to the same thing. It's like, dude, that's too many riffs, or like that part doesn't fit with the rest of this, you know? And I mean, it can go the other way too, you know, like Kurt's definitely like, you know, advocated and taken a stand on shit that was like, that I was like, this, I can't stand this, you know? And then I hear it after it's done, and I'm like, I was definitely wrong about that. And that's, I mean, but you know, that's true of any band I've ever been in. It's, you know, nobody's always right.
It's kind of it's kind of magical on some level. What you said before, Stephen, that it changed the way you saw music a bit from that experience. What did you kind of bring back to Cave In? Because there's a real simplicity to there's a real simplicity to that that's really interesting as a contrast. Not you know what I mean? Like there's an art in that too. I don't know. Well, yeah. What did you bring back to your world? And you and Caleb had real like Lane and Jerry kind of harmony level, like that level harmony that brings like a lot to it, that the space between people. It's really interesting.
Yeah, I felt really just lucky and like I was witnessing something really cool and transformative during the writing process for When Forever Comes Crashing. I just never been in a band that everybody pushed each other as hard as we were being pushed at the time and pushing ourselves. It was really wild. Writing that stuff in their former drummer Damon's garage. And this was all happening like just a town over from where I lived. So, this world that I kind of had in my mind for 16, 17 years, all of a sudden was just being expanded. And, when I started playing music, I really wanted to sort of reach outside of where I grew up, and I wanted to see other parts of the world, and, reading Heart Attack and Maximum Rock and Roll and all these zines that I would order, and I would see records being reviewed from, all over the world. And I was like, this is happening everywhere, this sort of thing that we're all trying to do here. And I felt like Converge just had this really amazing reach, and for great reason too. I mean, they were just pushing these musical boundaries that, I don't know, it was just something I wanted to hear. I didn't even know that I wanted to hear it, but when I did, it just all kind of clicked. And for Cave In, it just changed my guitar playing. I wasn't afraid of being as discordant. In fact, it was more celebrated. Trying to find cool ways of writing catchy but off-time, weird riffs that were hard-hitting, and just linking them together like some of the weirdest Lego piece choices that you could make, kind of like what Nate was saying with how we were all just listening to all different types of music, and we were so young and absorbing it, and it was like just hitting us really fresh for the first time, like, back when emo was emo core. Or like, I mean, I'm 41 now, so in the mid 90s, I was still really fresh on like alternative rock and grunge, and I think that was sort of maybe where I felt like I could slip some melodic singing in there somehow.
Yeah.
Sunny Day Real Estate,
Yeah,
actually that's interesting because I also got into the Beatles around the same time, and it wasn't the Beatles, but Sunny Day Real Estate that made me think, well, maybe I should sing with like a fake English accent because this guy's doing it pretty in a cool way.
You guys did a thing, Converge did a thing at Roadburn in 2016, I believe. Is that far back? Maybe.
Fuck.
I know.
Was it that far? Was it that long ago?
I think the internet, I think I watched it before and it said that. So I'm going to trust the internet, which is nuts because it's 4 years ago. And I don't know where the last few years went. But they did a really cool thing where they kind of made fuller versions of Converge songs. And there's like a couple of moments that are really good. You did a really good Disintegration, The Cure cover, which was fucking nuts. It was really good. My personal goth Christmas. Chelsea Wolfe did this version of fucking Wretched World that was off the chain. And but
I really liked the version of Last Light that we did for Blood Moon. I thought that came out really good.
It's a great thing, and it's like this other element of bringing all these people together and stuff. And the word on the street is you're making original songs with all the people involved in that. And there's like, I think like Ben Chisholm and Kurt Bailey both are kind of crazy music people who are like entire things in themselves. So what's that like working with all these people? That's the impression I get from the outside, is they're both like a whole movie.
Well, Kurt sort of acts as the musical director.
It doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't know. I feel like he sort of has a vision, and or if maybe he's not sure, like it's pretty easy for someone to chime in at least with an idea. And I don't know. Yeah, there's no like roaring, raging egos, thankfully. So we usually figure that sort of stuff out pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Or if like somebody can't play something, if somebody has like a difficult time playing and singing, like, well, why don't you do it instead? Okay, I got it. Like, I don't know, that's part of the decision-making process too.
Yeah, and I mean, pretty much everything that I've contributed, I've just been like, here, I want to see what everybody does with this. Like, I'm not trying to send this in any direction. I just want to see what happens. I think there was one song that I submitted that I was just like, this one I would really like to hear Chelsea sing on, but everything else, like, and that might not even happen. So who knows?
It's pretty exciting. Just like
I'm excited to see where it all ends up.
it's
honestly,
super
like,
cool. Well, it's Jacob
really
as well,
neat
isn't it?
thing. What was that?
Is it Jacob as well?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you got Jake, Chelsea, and Stephen. You pretty much got music covered. I mean,
Yeah.
what do you need?
Well, I'll say this: one of my favorite Converge
rap.
songs.
Nobody can rap.
All right, one of my favorite Converge songs is "Worms Will Feed," and the thing I love about that song, aside from being just like a slow burning bruiser, is the vocal orchestration, like the way that the vocals are spread out between Nate, Jake, and Kurt. And going into Blood Moon, I was really excited to sort of conceptualize that to some of the stuff that we were writing and expand upon it, and have everybody chiming in that sort of way. So I don't know. Yeah, my imagination really has been running wild with it. I'm stoked to jump back in when we can.
Yeah. It's been relatively easy and painless. It's just been everybody like sending ideas around and then people adding to them. And that's been pretty much it. We had a few rehearsals where at least all the East Coast people got together and worked on some ideas and sent those to Ben and Chelsea. And I mean, nothing's done, but we have a lot of material to work with. I mean, I think had COVID not happened, we probably would have already been done recording an album, but everything got thrown into the garbage, and now we're just waiting to dump the garbage can back on ourselves in a year.
I think like this conversation is we've just revealed the only good thing about the pandemic and its impact on the rock and roll industry is that it's produced a very creative time, and there is like some substance to my fantasy dream of 2021 being the summer of love of rock and roll. Like when it all comes back, it's suddenly going to be this mystical, like, because the pandemic of like 2018, whole other century, 1918, 1919, I don't know, fucking ages ago. After that was the Roaring 20s. We could have Roaring 20s. Little hats.
I would love that so much.
Like, I just think everyone's going to lose their minds to be close again. Like, I just honestly think it's going to be like, it's just, people are going to be weird and gross. Like, they're just going to want to touch each other and like rub their disgusting, sweaty bodies all over each other. It's going to be disgusting. It's going to be great. I'm really excited.
Great and disgusting.
Yeah, it's going to be, I mean, what's better than life than great and disgusting? Well, if you did, back to Blood Moon briefly, when you do bring that up, will it be like a cinematic visual experience? If it was a movie, what movie would it be?
We talked a little bit about working with Ashley Rose to like help develop like a stage set or something. I mean, these are things that like are foreign to me,
You're so
like,
fancy. You're so fancy.
yeah. I mean, like Chelsea, Chelsea has like toured with a stage set, and like she's very particular about her visuals and how her live set is presented, and it's amazing, and it's
Yeah.
like powerful. Coming from playing hardcore, like it's always been the antithesis of that for us. It's always been like you get up there and you take nothing and you make it into something, you
Yeah.
know. And
Oh, I like
so
that.
the idea of bringing in that visual aspect is it seems really daunting to me, because it's just something that I've never been able to do, and I
Yeah.
feel like every time like any idea that I have, I'm just like, I'm gonna look like an idiot if I do this, you know, because I'm just gonna look like a poser. But with this project though, it's so different and it's so much its own thing that like I really feel like this is like the first time musically or creatively I've felt like there are just no limits put on it. It's just like, let's do fucking anything. I don't care. Let's just see what happens, you know?
It's pretty, like, it's definitely the thing I'm most excited about to hear. I think there's something really wonderful about like this moment in music that was spread through tapes and through pen pals and through this like whole netherworld that wasn't really accessible to the outside world, because everyone was in it. You know, like Shane Embury was like, oh, we spoke to everyone. Like all these bands that existed later, we all had sent each other our tapes and we all sent each other these zines. You're being beaten by a small animal. It's fine.
There's a damn
You're
mosquito in
being
here.
haunted. But it's a really interesting,
Whoa.
like, is the internet isn't quite like that. I don't know.
It's really not.
Yeah,
Now
what
it's
happened?
the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just different, you know. It was smaller. It was more grassroots. I won't say better or worse, because you know that's just all about your point of view at any given moment. But I mean, I can say that it was an interesting time to be coming up. You know, like I started getting into punk rock and hardcore in like the late 80s. And so you know, I kind of experienced the very end of that second wave of hardcore when it got really fucking big. You
Yeah.
know, like when, you know, the Bad Brains released Quickness, and like, you know, the Cro-Mags were the biggest thing in the world, and Fugazi started, and it was just like this whole new thing that was happening. But that all fucking crashed by like 91, 92, something like that. So like the hardcore scene just, I mean, I wasn't around in the early 80s. I don't know what that original first wave of hardcore was like, but I imagine it being a lot like that early 90s hardcore scene, because everything just went completely fucking underground again, you know,
Yeah.
because there were no booking agents. Like there really wasn't much of an infrastructure for it anymore, because all that stuff had moved on or
Yeah.
just disappeared. Like the clubs didn't want to book hardcore shows, at least not where I was.
Yeah.
And the clubs that did book hardcore shows in most towns or most cities, they were bigger, you know, bigger bands that had been established and had booking agents and stuff like that. So like that early 90s scene was really interesting because everything was grassroots again. And I can look back to that and like, you know, remember very specific moments and specific things that happened that blossomed into bigger things, you know, like
Yeah.
you know, my first, not my first band, but my first real band was called Channel, and our first show was with Josta 14 and Dive. Have we talked about this before on your show? I don't remember.
I don't think so. Possibly.
Well,
I
Josta
don't,
14.
oh, yes.
So
Yes.
Jamie, who sings for Hatebreed, was in Josta 14. And he was like, "You guys are killer. I want to put out a 7-inch for your band. I'm starting a label." You know, and with a label which he still runs today, Stillborn Records. And Matt Kelly from Dropkick Murphys played in one of the other bands that played. And like, you know, all of us were, you know, playing these shows to like 20 people. And it was pretty interesting the way that all kind of grew. But I'm bringing this back, I promise.
Yeah.
So like, kind of back to your original question, what that scene was like. So when I joined Converge in '98, even before that, Jesuit had been, active, and we were playing shows all up and down the East Coast and touring and stuff. And we were spending a lot of time in that area, and we signed to Hydra Head Records. Aaron,
Yeah.
Hydra Head was established, but it hadn't really been around that long. But I'm sure Steve can speak to this as well, but I just remember very distinctly feeling like something's happening here. Like, I felt like up until that moment, or that time period, there were like things that happened, but it just felt like everybody, like literally everyone, the whole music scene was just kind of treading water. There were a few ebbs and flows, like you had like the wave of Victory Records stuff, like Earth Crisis and Strife and all that, and like the New Age Records stuff, like Unbroken and all that, which, most of that wasn't really my thing, with the exception of Unbroken. And then you had like the more DIY world, like Born Against and Rorschach, all those bands that I loved. But like, I really felt like that time in like the late, like 90s, around 97, moving on, like, and it's probably just because I was involved in it, but that was when I felt like, fuck, something new is happening here. Like, this is something completely different, this didn't exist before. And like, it was really interesting to me looking around and seeing bands like Cave In, doing things that hadn't really been done in hardcore.
Yeah.
Or looking at, or Aaron Turner, like with ISIS, I remember just so much stuff was happening that I was like, there were influences being pulled, and a lot of them were obvious, but they were being put together in such a way that it hadn't really been done before. And it was just really cool to be there for that, and to see it happening in real time, and then just watching how it's grown from there and what people have taken from it. It's been really, I don't know, it's been a really cool thing to see.
Yeah. It's amazing. It's amazing what it's become. Like those little flowers. It's cool that it felt like that from the beginning, And well, so Aaron from Hydra Head put out the first ever Cave In release. Is that correct? What was it, your perspective on all this?
Well, Cave In's involvement with Hydra Head came around 1997, and we had done split releases. We'd done split 7-inch releases up to that point. We'd done maybe three or four, like 3 split 7 inches and maybe like a comp. So when Aaron came along and was running his own label and was stationed in Boston, and we instantly had a kinship together through music and all the shows that we mutually enjoyed going to, it just, a light clicked on, and it was like, oh man, this is what an opportunity. We get to record our own 7-inch. We don't have to share this 7-inch with another band, and this guy's going to pay for the recording. No way. So that was huge. Yeah.
No sharing. So what did you want to kind of define your sound? Like, because that's kind of a time to define your sound. What did you want to be different? What did you want to make as your different thing? Make as your different thing. That was a great sentence, Christina. No.
Well, at that point, we were getting into writing longer songs. So we had kind of hit upon Crossbearer, and we figured out that we had the endurance to kind of just do a composition like that was a bit longer than anything else that we had done. And we were throwing some new stuff in there. It had to have the emo part. So that's where I came in. JR wasn't even playing double bass at that point.
Yeah.
JR was playing a simulated version of double bass where he was going back and forth on the kick drum and the floor tom. So it was like this real weird herky-jerky thing.
I remember that.
Yeah.
A moment in time.
We were just figuring it out, you know,
Yeah.
and trying to keep up. We were trying to keep up with like all these bands that we were learning about through just being a part of the scene, like Dillinger Escape Plan. Like, holy shit, you know, have you heard this stuff? This is insane. Like, this is like, I don't even know. This is like techie, mathy, weird, crazy, angry, and they've got like a screaming guy sample in the middle of their song, and I don't know, craziest off time mosh riffs you could ever imagine. Botch was like this Pacific Northwest thing that was kind of like doing a Dillinger kind of thing, but it was more hypnotic and more pummeling and just psychedelic in a way.
Yeah.
Coalesce was like they were like the Midwestern version of all of that, but it was like a you know, a metalcore jackhammer. And I remember the drummer at one point, you know, talking to him about Coalesce, and he was like, yeah, actually, it's harder for me to play in regular time. It's easier to play in like 9/7 or whatever. And I was just like, who are these mutants? This is amazing, you know?
It is very mutant. I think I've interviewed Ben like 5 times over 12 years. It's starting to get silly. He did from Dillinger, and it's you know, there's so many good ideas that happened. I do have one question. Why is Old Man Gloom so funny? Because I feel like there's more humor in there, and you've both, you know, filled in for each other on being in, you know, in Cave In and in Old Man Gloom. Where does the humor come from? Why is it funny? I'll ask that in a really deadpan way that provides nothing to you.
Because the entire point of the band is to make each other laugh. The music is secondary, and I'm being dead serious. It's literally just so we can hang out and make each other laugh.
What's the best prank you've pulled? Who is winning? This is a challenge. This was also a fan question, and I will cut away to fan questions because your fans have really good questions, and I am going to bring them to the table. Yeah.
At this point, I feel like Santos has pranked himself unwittingly so many times that there's not really anything we can do that is gonna burn him as hard as he has already burned himself. Like the road burn thing when he like made the fake fucking text conversation with Tomas from At the Gates.
Man, yeah.
What happened? Tell us to the people who don't know. Tell us. I don't know how to words.
I think it was a fake conversation between Tompa and Walter from Roadburn. Am I right, Steve? I think that's what happened.
Well, whatever the joke was, Tompa was not in on it. He did not know that any of this was happening in advance. So it was the result of all of this madness came, I think, on the day of his wedding anniversary or anniversary with his partner.
He was on his honeymoon.
His honeymoon, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. And so his phone starts blowing up and people are like, dude, what's up with this internet beef between you and Santos from Old Man Gloom? And he's just like, huh? What? So that was going back to what you said about sort of pranking ourselves or Santos pranking himself. I mean, it's like if Tompa had been in on the joke, that may have gone a little differently, but so it goes.
I was out with my wife getting breakfast. We were at Red's in Salem, and my phone, I start getting text messages, just buzz, 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 and I'm like, what the fuck is this? And it's all from Tompa, and he's like, dude, what the fuck is going on with Old Man Gloom? What is this? What the fuck? Like, and I'm just like, huh? I didn't even know. I had no idea that Santos was even doing it. And I was like, dude, I don't know what you're talking about. And he was fucking mad. And I was like, I'm like, all right,
Wait,
just before you go any farther, I just want to tell you that it's Old Man Gloom.
that leads quite naturally into Charles House's question, which is favorite guitar or amp either of you have ever played.
Ooh.
I'll
Steve?
give you thinking music. Dun, 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 dun. Are you good?
Well, you can't really see it, but hanging on the wall here is a 65 Harmony Jaguar that my dad learned to play on, and then he passed it down to me, and that's the guitar that I learned to play on. So a lot of history with that thing. I mean, it plays like a toy. It used to have a wooden bridge, and this thing was so slippery, like you'd be rocking out and then you'd maybe strum a little too hard and then the bridge would slip and the entire guitar would go out of tune. But the pickups, Nate, you would love these pickups, man, because talk about screaming into a pickup. These things are so microphonic. They would capture that scoop so nicely.
Get the scoop.
the Newton patented scoop. It's there. It's real.
Awesome.
How
So
about
are
you?
we talking about favorite guitars or amps?
Well, I think you both, or the question is or.
Favorite guitar, like 6-string guitar. I guess probably my baritone Jaguar. Favorite bass. That's a tough one. You know what? I'm gonna have to go and say it's Caleb's bass right here.
Hey.
There it is. Yeah. Just because, it carries a lot of meaning, but it's also just it's the best playing bass I've ever played. That thing has some magic in it. I don't know what it is, but
Magic is
really
important. That actually, side note, that Roadburn acoustic tribute thing, that is like my ultimate heartbreak album. It is like my ultimate really sad thing because it's really sad and you can feel all of it. And I've never talked to you guys about him, but what would you tell people that we wouldn't know about Caleb, that if you had a long relationship, obviously, like what was it like as a person and stuff, and what was it like kind of finding him as a musical partner and stuff?
Well, I definitely met Caleb through music. Caven and his early band Strike 3, we toured together. That was the first time that Caven ever went on tour, and we really had no idea that he was such a great bass player. I mean, we knew that he had played bass in bands when he was younger, but he was just a vocalist in his band Strike 3. So when it came time for us to find yet another bass player back in 1997, he was on the list. And I mean, his devotion to learning our songs was really something else. Like, he wasn't joking when he said he locked himself in his closet for like days straight, just trying to dissect and internalize all the stuff that we were writing that eventually became Until Your Heart Stops. He was just devoted. He just committed. And I don't know if many people know how much he really loved the outdoors. I'm thinking about this because recently I went on a hiking trip and I got legit lost in the woods for like 4 hours and like ran out of water.
Scary, man.
It was really frightening. Yeah. Looking for a trail just through the brush and like, I don't know, it was like one of the dumbest things I've ever done. But I just thought of Caleb at moments during this insanity, and I was like, man, he would be laughing at me so hard right now. Because I've been on camping trips with him. Caven would do camping trips, and he would pick these really cool spots. He picked a spot once where we had to take a canoe out to this private little campsite, and he was definitely like the older brother, and he was older than all of us, by like several months. So yeah, he just had that sort of like older brother, like, I'm the woodsman, like, I'm going to scare the hell out of you, like playing pranks on us in the woods and stuff. Just some really good memories, camping with him. And yeah, I don't know if many people know that, but he's from New Hampshire, so that's a clue right there.
Yeah, I understand. I'm from the bush, where we have similar. We've got way more deadly shit in our bush, but I can understand that thing. It's a balance of nature. What do you think, Nate? Yeah.
I mean, I don't know if everybody realizes how fucking funny he was. Like, Caleb had this deadpan, dry, absolutely brutal sense of humor. Like, he was the dude that, like, I mean, because I fucking talk a mile a minute. I just, like, whatever, if it's in there, it's just coming out, and like, not a lot of thought. And so, and if people are laughing, then I'm just like, all right, yeah, let's go, blah, 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 and like, so I would just be going and going and going. And then Caleb would just slide in with just like one tiny little comment that would be so brutal. It would just be like, fuck. Like, he just in front
Shut
of
it down. Can you remember
But
a
it was
single
so
anecdote
good.
for the color? Can you remember?
It would be so good though that, like, you couldn't even get mad. You would just be like, God damn it, how do you get me again?
I love, like, interesting character. Like, I think a great band is really alchemy between people, and I think you can't really separate who the people are from the music and how it feels, because I don't think you can kind of pull that back. So it's really cool that was captured as well, like the relationship between you. Like, not to like bring in my own thing, but I lost someone who was 17 and she'd never made an album, and she was an amazingly accomplished singer and guitarist and all this stuff. So it is actually really cool how much you got down. And I think of like the way David Bowie left the planet, like with more grace than anyone in the history of time, like said nothing, made an amazing album that like totally told the story, and then just toured all of his art. This is kind of a random aside, but I'm just saying what you guys did to honor his memory and stuff with all of that music and all these concerts and stuff. It was just really inspiring to see people like honor someone that was really mattered to them like that. I don't know if that's too random to say, but it's, yeah, I just think it's really moving to see that happen, because there was so much heart that was really obvious about it. Yeah, I don't know.
It was good to be a part of it.
Yeah.
I think I think had we not done that, all of us would be in a much worse place on a personal and kind of mental health level. So I think it really helped all of us heal.
Yeah. What kind of, did you feel that way, Stephen? Like, did you kind of go, we have to do this and have to kind of put our insides on the outside a bit?
Yeah, absolutely. That's really the long and short of it. But we were also lucky that the family embraced our wanting to help and be a part of whatever we felt like we had to do to heal and to help them as well. We had this little treasure trove of music that we had been working on, which became Final Transmission. That was in a way like hanging out with Caleb. Also sort of revisiting memories of doing music together for the last time, which is essentially what brought us together. And the same with Gloom too, there's some stuff on the new Gloom record that is pretty much crafted by Caleb's hand. And then going out and playing this stuff too, just having this sort of like another chance or another sort of rebirth of our everything that we've done, but we're celebrating it differently now. And we're, music is like, it's like one of those things where it just conjures up certain memories that no other sense can do or no other sensation can do. So to be playing Caleb's songs was like sort of revisiting the best parts of him. And I mean, for Caven, we're very lucky to have Nate being on board with that. There's really no one else that we could have done that with, really. Like, it was kind of a no-brainer. Yeah. So, yeah, we were all together just sort of trying to work it out and get through it. And we ended up helping each other and helping the family. And I think it's just going to be this rolling thing. Like, that's kind of what I've learned about grief through all this. It's like this living, breathing thing, and it just changes forms through the years. And it's just, you have to manage it, really. That's it. It's just there, you know?
Yeah, it doesn't. The Nick Cave wrote a really beautiful blog about grief because he lost his son when he fell off a mountain. It was really full on. What is that little animal? Wow, he's changed, man. He's real small. I thought he was bigger and angrier and older. I thought that was his vibe. But he said this great thing about grief being a part of love. That's just the nature of it. Like, it's just, you can't pull them apart. They're just a part of, wow, I've just gotten real heavy. What Mutoid Man song is the funnest to play and why? What is going on with that?
Date with the Devil is really fun. Because it's got this like Sunset Strip kind of backbeat thing to it. It's really like skanky and real, just, I don't know, kind of just a, you know,
it's gross.
It's kind of a dirty, just nasty song. 1,000 Mile Stare. I like playing that one only because it's really difficult and it's very satisfying when I can actually play it correctly.
And you're like, yes.
What's going on with Mutoid Man?
Yeah.
We're also writing some new music. We haven't put out a record since 2017. That's when Warmones came out. So we're definitely due for another one. We've done a bunch of touring since then. I feel like the next step would be just to put out some new music.
That's a nice thing.
Yeah. I'm stoked on it. There's definitely some ideas that are pretty strong and, you know, some things that are sort of standard Mutoid Man, I think, at this point, and maybe some stuff that's pushing that sort of idea a little bit in some new directions. And I don't know. It's just a matter of timing, I think. Like, you know, we have this like Google Doc where we, you know, obviously now it's not, no one's really looking at it very much, but it was like a schedule of like shows and recordings with all the different bands, just so, you know, we wouldn't double book ourselves or something. And it was really like, that was the go-to, you know, anytime that you even thought about making some sort of plan with one of like the many bands that we're all doing. So, but yeah, now with like quarantine, it's just, everyone's just sort of writing internally and you just get to it when you can. And, but I'm really psyched on some of the ideas that we have. It's just, we just got to get together and actually feel it out in a room.
What's happening with Cave-In now?
That you got it.
Oh.
I'm just to fill in.
Yeah, I guess one silver lining of this pandemic and quarantine and et cetera, is that because this whole channel that absorbs bandwidth to organize touring and rehearsals and making merch and that whole radio station is just turned off right now. I've kind of lost myself in writing, and you know, Cave-In did a bunch of touring at the end of last year into earlier this year. So just having that feeling of what was happening at those shows and sort of going like, well, what would some new music with that energy and that vibe sound like? And carrying on the creative sort of trajectory that we started with Final Transmission, kind of just pushing that a little bit further. And it's been a pretty creative time for me. And luckily, you know, Nate, Adam, JR, they listen to all my demos, all the hundreds of them that I send, and they have really good feedback. And we've actually started working on some stuff remotely. So yeah, It's going really good.
It is weird to maintain being good for this long. Like, most people suck eventually, and you really don't suck.
Oh, well, thanks for saying that. I mean, I think that going back to like an earlier question, like just talking about our little group, our little community, I've been really lucky to have been associated with so many, you know, hugely creative and talented people. But I also think that our group never forgot the cardinal rule. It's just don't make a record that you wouldn't listen to, you know? And
Yeah.
I think everybody's got good taste. And I think that a lot of bands, as they age, they don't age gracefully because they don't necessarily have good taste. And I feel like everybody in our world is really focused on like, you know, everybody is like really fucking hungry for new music all the time. Like everybody wants to learn and like, you know, find new things to draw influences from and be inspired by. And,
Yeah.
you know, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's that way for everybody, but I feel like within our group, especially, there's like a real focus on that.
Kyla James, I'd probably said that wrong. I'd like to know how much Nate contributes to guitar writing in Converge, considering he knows his way around the instrument just as well as the bass.
Just as well.
He didn't mean it in that tone.
It varies. Honestly, it varies from album to album. On the Dusk in Us, I would say that was. It's tough to say. That might have been half and half me, half Kurt. And half the time I like will write a riff or a song or something and show it to Kurt, and like he takes what I showed him and he turns it into something else. I mean, that's like, there's no primary songwriter in Converge. It's all four of us collaborating. So, you know, kind of the idea there is that whatever you bring to the table, you can't be too precious about it. You've just got to be like, I'm throwing this into the fucking process, and whatever the process spits out is what it is. It's not going to be what I want it to be. It's what we want it to be. You know? And it's always about serving the song and not serving, you know, some specific vision. It's just, this is what this needs to be, so we're going to let it be that. So, yeah, I mean, it varies record to record. I wrote a good amount on the last record, though.
Awesome.
I'm a big fan of Nate Newton guitar playing.
Yeah?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, channel riffs.
You just say camel riffs?
That riff has been in my head since this conversation started.
I like we've developed a whole
God,
new Steve dictionary throughout the course of this. We've discovered you speak a whole other language, which is really important.
The language of channel. I've been trying to convince Nate to cover Jealous God and Caven. So we'll see.
I think that the Doomriders guys would not be happy about that.
Wait, Doomriders, what's going on? That's a question. You guys tired?
At the moment, not a lot is going on with Doomriders because of COVID, but we did start writing some new material.
Hey.
And you know, I very much want to write a new record. And we're
do it.
Yeah.
We're about to move into a new rehearsal space, and I think everyone is finally getting to the point where we feel like we're, you know, safe to be in a room together making noise. So I think that that will continue.
Best prank you've ever pulled on a bandmate?
In any band?
Yeah, I'm opening it to both of you. I'm opening the floor.
I have to say the most recent one that Old Man Gloom pulled on Nate was pretty good when we were all sort of learning some stuff remotely because Nate wasn't present for a particular writing session and was asking if we could send him riff videos. And so both myself and Aaron would be recording these videos for Nate, and right as we were getting the part that Nate was looking for some clarity, something would happen, like the phone would just accidentally fall over or something. I think Santos has those videos somewhere. Maybe he posted them on
they would like hold the
Instagram
guitar over here so that you couldn't see what they were doing. or turn around.
It used to be a
Fucking
bit
asshole.
challenging. Yeah, well, yeah, but the world needs Old Man Gloom. They do. At a time like
Well,
this.
old man
I
Gloom needs
agree.
the world.
Yeah, it's a symbiotic relationship. I think we've covered everything. Oh, Nate, when did you first realize you were the coolest person in the world?
I thought I realized that when I was like 18, and then around 38, I realized that I was a total fucking idiot.
I don't want to end it on this, but I'm going to.
It's accurate.
I have less than a minute. We're doing this. We're getting out. Thank you for being a part of this. This was a cool insight into your musical worlds.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. This is The Void and stuff.
This is an experience of the void.